This conference will now be recorded.
Let me just get the recording going. So welcome everybody. I'll go through the list. The first item is introductions, and what we've been doing is just referring to the attendance list here on the GoToMeeting app. So we won't go around the room or anything like that. Second item, public comments. Are there any public comments? Doesn't look like there is, so we'll move on from there. And approval of minutes is item 3. These minutes went out with the mailing last week. Typically, we'll take a just consensus recommendation to approve the minutes. No formal votes today. So is there a consensus recommendation to accept the minutes?
May I make one correction? This is Elizabeth from Townsend.
Okay.
Yep, I was just listed under other organizations, but I should be under members. See me under there under ex officio. Not yet.
That's right.
And
Okay, well,
yeah, if you want to note, I know, admittedly, I arrived a bit late, so that could be what happened.
okay, we'll make that change going forward. We'll amend these
Okay, thank
going
you.
forward.
Other
Sorry
than
about
that, that's good. Looks good.
Okay. Okay, our item number 4, coordinated public transit human services plan, and I'll turn this over to Sherry. This is our plan that's out for public comment. As of right now, up until this coming Friday, and Sherry will present on this.
So the Coordinated Public Transit Human Service Plan was presented to the MPO last month and then was released for a 21-day public comment period. It started on the 23rd of February, and then it will end this Friday on the 15th. So the plan documents the region's unmet human service transportation needs for seniors and individuals with disabilities. The plan has been developed by the MPO as a tool to help local transportation providers and communities improve transportation services, increase efficiency of service delivery, and expand outreach to meet growing needs. This plan is required for the federal transit law in order for the region to access the FTA Section 5310 funding, and the plans must be developed and approved every 4 years through a process that includes participation by seniors, individuals with disabilities, representatives of public, private, nonprofit transportation and human service providers, and other members of the public that utilize transportation services. It provides a framework to guide the investment of existing transportation resources and the acquisition of future funds. So as of today, we have received 2 comments so far. One from the mayor of Fitchburg, Sam Squalia, and then one from Neil Angus from Devens. And today we're looking for a recommendation to the MPO to approve the final coordinated plan at their upcoming meeting on March 20th.
May I make a comment?
Yes,
is
please.
the comment period still open?
Yes, until Friday.
So it's okay for the JTC to approve pending incorporation of the comments, or how does that work?
Yeah, it would just be, you would recommend that they approve the final version, which would incorporate the comments.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
So far I've incorporated the comments from Fitchburg, which were basically on the member and signatory listing. They just wanted to make sure that that was updated to reflect the new mayor and a couple other members that have changed. And Devens just highlighted the need for transit services out there, and then the different service organizations that they represent. So we wanted to highlight that a little bit further, which we have incorporated so far. So as the comments come in, we typically update as necessary, and then at the end of the document we'll have a table just like the RTP does that addresses that lists all the comments and then our responses to each one.
And can I ask how often this is updated? Is this an annual update?
Every 4 years.
4 years, thank you. Yeah, there may be a few comments coming in from Townsend. Unfortunately, I got it out a little late to our senior director of our senior services and our sorry. Yeah, well, we may have a few more coming in, sorry. Before Friday.
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
When we put this out for public comment, starting last month, we did send it to senior centers,
Oh, good.
a number of different groups.
All right.
So hopefully, you know, they noticed it then. But if you'd like to access the draft plan, you can go to our website. And it should be right in this announcements tab. You might have to scroll down a little bit. Looks like.
I just checked it yesterday, Brian. It's been bumped a little bit, so you just, yeah.
I guess so, huh? We've been adding a lot here. So what I did was just said view all on this first page here, and you can see the draft coordinated plan here. And you can just reach out via email or phone call or however you see fit to make comments, or just if you have any questions as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Brian. Are you going to add maps?
Are we going to add maps?
I think that there were maps put in there in relation to the, no, there should be a couple more in, for the special population maps. Those are added actually a little bit after the fact. So maybe might not actually be in this version. I'll make sure that that updated version gets put in, because that was a comment that we had already received. So
these are maps just to add better context to some of the tables that are in this plan.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, we have two. We have two for each population, seniors and then disability.
Yeah, this one doesn't have.
Yeah, I think I incorporated them into the document instead of into the appendix, so it flowed a little bit better and it was a little bit more clear. So you didn't have to scroll all the way to the end to see them. I wanted to make sure that they were a little bit more visible. So I know I did add them. I'm just going to make sure that that version is on the website, so that way it's the most up to date.
Is there a version available of with your edits, like your track changes, or so we know what we're comparing it to?
Well, the only real edits are on the signatories, like the very beginning of the document where it lists everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably like 5 people were added or changed, and then there was a couple of areas that Devon's was a little bit more elaborated on.
I noticed you updated the regional shuttles, and that's one of the areas that Townsend is interested in, and mostly interested in developing outreach for the small communities with regional shuttle service. And that's one of the things I wanted to mention, but I can put that in a comment or, I don't know how you want to address that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think an email to me, Beth,
Okay.
would be the easiest. That way I can track it a lot better.
Sounds good.
What I'll do is when I have that most recent document, I will make sure that that's put on the website anyway, because I wanted to include the one with the maps, as George was saying. So
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
provide that. So that way the most updated one will be on there.
Okay, thank you.
So the idea is that originally last month we presented this draft to the MPO and they sent it out for an official 21-day public comment period, which we mentioned we're within right now up until Friday. So the next week's MPO meeting, we're seeking a recommendation to endorse the final plan pending the inclusion of the comments that we received and some edits. So I think what we're seeking is some sort of a consensus to the MPO one way or the other to endorse or not. And if the group is not comfortable making a recommendation, that's fine too. Is there a consensus recommendation to suggest to the MPO to endorse?
Yes, I will make a recommendation for the MPO to endorse.
Okay, great. And again, it's not a formal vote or anything with this group, so we'll consider that. We'll mention that to the MPO, and we'll be presenting the comments more in detail at the meeting next week before we actually take the official vote to endorse with the MPO. Are there any other questions regarding the coordinated plan? Okay, seeing none, feel free to reach out to Sherry or any of us, and we'll try to answer any questions and include any comments that you have if you get a chance to review this. Next on the agenda is Montachusett 2025 through 29 Transportation Improvement Program. So today we're nearing close to the development of the draft tip, which again will be fully available next month in April. So first we'll briefly review the statewide section projects and the transit projects. And although it's still very much in flux, what we'd like to do is review some options for the target section. Again, the target section being the section where the MPO and this group has more discretion over project placement, and hopefully get an indication of what sort of avenue to pursue from there. So first off, I'll start with the transit section projects. These are prioritized by the Transit Authority, Mark. So I won't go over these in detail, but nonetheless, this is our first look at the draft list that will likely be included in the draft document next month. So these, as I mentioned, are placed by the Transit Authority. Covers the same years as the target section we've been discussing, 2025 through 2029. Includes a number of different projects, such as you can see vehicle purchases, facility upgrades, facility maintenance, and operating assistance, that type of thing. So the final version of this list will be tweaked over the next few weeks, and we'll be including this in next month's draft. In regards to the statewide priorities, these are highway projects that are prioritized by the state in our region. So again, same 5 federal fiscal years. In federal fiscal year 2025, we have Hubbardston Bridge Replacement, Williamsville Road over Burnshirt River, and Sterling Stormwater Drainage Improvements at Wachusett Reservoir at 110, Gardner, Elm Street Resurfacing and Sidewalk Improvements, Fitchburg Leominster Twin Cities Rail Trail Phase 2. These are roughly very similar, if not the same, as what we've had in the current tip. In 2026, Athol Bridge Replacement, Main Street over Boston Main Railroad, Harvard Lancaster Bridge Replacement, Jackson Road over Nashua River, Safe Routes to School project in Fitchburg at Memorial Middle School, Phase 2 again of Fitchburg Leominster Twin Cities Rail Trail. 2027, we have Fitchburg Ashby resurfacing related work on Route 31, along with Gardner Bike Path construction, North Central Pathway at 140. In 2028, Leominster Lancaster pavement preservation on Route 2, along with Petersham culvert replacements on New Salem Road. And the final year, Gardner in 2029, bridge replacement, Mill Street over Baker Brook. So again, these are the statewide priorities. This is the first look at the draft list. These could change before next month, likely not, but we'll review these again next month, along with some other additional projects that are within our region, but shared with other regions not listed on our specific list. So we'll do that next month when we look at the full draft document. And finally, what our main discussion is, as always, the target section, again, where MPO has control over project placement. So I'll open this exercise up by stating that things are still evolving. Cost and status of projects are still changing and being discussed as we speak right now. We look at some of the scenarios we put together. Please realize this could change, and it likely will to some degree between now and the next time we meet. So basically, we put some scenarios together, and what we tried to prioritize at these scenarios is, first off, trying to keep projects on schedule. And by on schedule, I mean placed within the year that they currently are listed in the 24 through 28 tip. We also want to be as flexible as possible. To spend as much of our target allotment in our region in every federal fiscal year. So those are the two main thoughts in this process. So we've been reviewing this existing list here. Some of the numbers have changed. Which brings us to our scenarios. So the idea is to take one of these scenarios and begin drafting a draft tip document moving forward. So there's some decisions that need to be made regarding project placement, and I'll go over each scenario and the merits of each. Scenario number one we have here, basically this keeps the existing order of the projects as they're listed currently in the 24 to 28 tip. We advance construct Templeton 608-424 in this scenario. Basically, advanced constructing is a mechanism we can use. A project that is big enough where we can expect construction to happen over 2 construction seasons. We place it over 2 years. This offers greater flexibility. It allows us to have better control over a fiscal constraint in each of these years. We can tweak the numbers a little bit better. So that's what we do with Templeton. In this case, we do it over 2026 and 2027. And we're able to bring 3 projects from the appendix into our new federal fiscal year. We're considering a 2029 in this version. Those are Air Road Rehab at Route 2A and 111, Winchendon intersection improvements at Blair Square, and Athol sidewalk installation at Templeton Road. So this is more or less, this is a status quo scenario. You know, the positive aspects is we get to keep the current schedule as it is now. There are a lot of risks involved, and this is the most risky scenario that we have. There's a good chance that Ashburnham Route 101 project in 2025 will not be ready in time to place in that year. Same thing with Templeton, may not be ready to go in 2026. These are the majority of the discussions we've had with project proponents over the last few weeks involve these 2 projects. And placement of these projects are going to affect everything on the list. 2025, fiscal year 2025 is the most important year. We really want to make sure that things are ready to go out to bid in 2025 that we had placed in this year. So again, most risky scenario we're looking at is status quo. And there's variations of each of these scenarios that we can go. I think the idea is to get a indication from the group of what's more preferable, so we can sort of go down that avenue in our discussions with the MPO next week. And these scenarios are included in the handouts. I just included them this morning, but you can access them if you access the handout folder from now on. Scenario 2, this scenario would move 4 projects back. Bring 1 project from the appendix into 2029, and again, advance construct Templeton project. These are based off of recommendations that we've been gathering from project proponents and various interests in the projects, mainly towards project readiness and design status. So we're considering what the ideal placement of each of these projects would be in terms of where they are with design. In this case, the 2 main projects we've been discussing, again, Templeton and Ashburnham. It's recommended that these projects move back. There's a chance they could be ready in the current year that they're placed, and currently Ashburnham is in 2025 and Templeton 26. This scenario does move them back, however, to give us more of a realistic view of when we can expect projects to be ready. The result of this is you know, a large portion of the target funds would be spent in 2025, nearly $9 million. That's not ideal. Obviously, we want to keep that money within the region. It would revert back into state coffers to be spent on statewide priorities in this case. Also, a main demerit with this scenario, it would move 4 projects back, not just the 2 high-risk projects, Ashburnham and Templeton. It would also affect other projects on the list. In this case, we have Sterling intersection improvements at 140 and 62. It's currently listed in fiscal year 28. This shifting around would require this project to move back 1 federal fiscal year into 2029. Same thing with Clinton, reconstruction of Sterling Street, Route 62. Currently, it's placed on 2027. and this scenario shows 2029 in order to make room for projects that have moved above it. Should be noted that both this Sterling and Clinton project, they are on schedule for the years that they're currently placed. So that's something to consider. They also are both relatively high valuation score projects, so they're priority projects for sure. The scenario only allows us to bring one project in from the appendix into 2029. That would be air roadway rehab on Route 2A 111. Basically, this is a scenario that offers the least amount of risk, but really no reward. We lose out on some funding in federal fiscal year 2025, and it affects projects down the list as well. So this is what we have to consider given the realities of project readiness. It has to be on the board for discussion. Hopefully we don't have to do that. We're still getting updates on some of these projects, but it's a real possibility. So this is scenario 2. The final scenario I have today is scenario 3. This would move the 2 high-risk projects back. The 2 high-risk projects, Ashburnham and Templeton, it would move back to a fiscal year that would better suit their project readiness. It would also move Harvard 609-213 up from where it's currently scheduled over 26 and 27 into 2025 and 26. This would be advanced constructed, much like the Templeton project. It would also bring 3 projects from the appendix into the fiscal year 29. And also we would advance construct Templeton as well. This scenario, it has the most upside in terms of just scheduling out our target allotment, also trying to keep projects on schedule, having a less effect on projects down the list by moving Ashburnham and Templeton around. It's more appropriate to have these projects scheduled in 26 and 27, Ashburnham and Templeton that being. And again, we spend most of all of our target allotment money in the first 2 federal fiscal years, which would be ideal. The caveat being the Harvard project, which would move forward. We're still trying to determine if this is possible. It seems at this moment that this Harvard project, which is currently scheduled in 2026, is more ready than the Ashburnham project, although it's still sort of on the fence on whether or not it will be ready in federal fiscal year 2025. We're still trying to determine that if this is a feasible option. So this is just a scenario as of right now. It does offer the most upside and eliminates most, but not all the risks. It's still very much in flux, and we're still gathering information. And I think as early as tomorrow or Friday, we'll have a better understanding of where we stand. Could be within the next few weeks, we're not sure. But basically, this is what we're looking at right now in terms of these target projects. We're trying to make the best decisions we can. The idea is from the JTC to get an indication of what avenue would be most preferable to pursue. We've been talking about the dangers of keeping Ashburnham and Templeton in the years that they currently are. I think that there's a good chance those have to move. The question is, what do we want it to affect on the list? As I mentioned, the scenario 3 is what us as staff are recommending as of right now, and this could change as it has the most upside. It would eliminate some of the risk, but not all. Are there any questions on these scenario or any of the projects themselves? And again, we look at this meeting as an opportunity to present it to the JTC as a group that have been reviewing some of these projects the last few months. You know, these scenarios weren't available last week in the mailing, so if you get a chance to look at some of these and you want to provide us some feedback or have questions, please reach out to me. The idea is to present these scenarios or similar scenarios based on new information that we get over the next week to the NPO at the next week's meeting and develop whatever scenario we come up with into the draft tip for April. So that's the plan as of right now, and that's what's going on with these projects right now. So I guess informational purposes.
Brian, for those two high-risk projects, what's the real likelihood, based on what you've heard, that they're going to get pushed back?
Very likely, and there's a lot of efforts being made, especially on Ashburnham's part. I will say the town has been working very hard over the last few years, really, with their consultants to get things up to speed. And things are happening right now. We're aware of the efforts being made. Certainly, we don't want to see this project to move back, but we have to be careful about placement in this first federal fiscal year 2025. I don't have any solid answers right now. I hope I do by the time we meet with the MPO next week, and that's the idea. We've been in contact with Mass DOT and some of the design consultants. We've all been conversing on some of these scenarios, and it's to be determined, but it's very likely that both Templeton and Ashburnham will need to move back. As I mentioned, on paper right now, Harvard looks more likely candidate for 2025. Again, it may not work out, but that seems to be more doable right now. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the amount of times we amend these tip lists as well. So, what we put out in this tip document, ideally it wouldn't change at all, but that's of course not the case. Say if we put scenario 3 out, some version of scenario 3, and Harvard's not ready to go for 2025, well, we'll have to move that back. And considering the evaluation score that Harvard has and everything else, we would certainly place that back into where it is right now in 2026 and 27. But as I mentioned, the scenario allows us to spend out our target allotment in 2025, and the idea is to spend as much regional money as we can.
Are the two towns okay with pushing those projects back? I see at least someone from Ashburnham here. What are their thoughts on it? It seems like scenario 3 is the best scenario, but curious if you've heard feedback specifically from Ashburnham or Templeton.
Yeah, I can let them speak for themselves, but I can say first off, they're trying very hard to keep this in 2025. I don't know if Brian or Randy, you have any updates or comments.
Yeah, Randy Williams, Ashburnham. So I don't have any current update available. Again, our desire is to keep Ashburnham on the 25 tip. Understanding that if we cannot, we're looking to get back in roll or back in line as soon as possible. But I know that Weston and Sampson is working diligently now, trying to make some adjustments and tweaks to the proposed plan so we can stay on track.
And I will say another thing we're cognizant of is Harvard moving forward. And Harvard's another community that's put a lot of time and resources into this project. It's a high priority project. It's a great project. We've been talking about it for a number of years. We've seen some movement. It's a big enough project to advance construct over 2 years, which offers great flexibility. But there's a chance that they're not ready to go in 2025. And to their credit, they've worked hard to keep it in 2026, and everything's been pretty smooth. And sometimes the way things shake out isn't exactly how you plan it, but again, things are to be determined right now. We're keeping tabs as best we can on all these projects. So if there's not a consensus, sorry, was there another comment?
Hey, Brian, it was just me. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't want to object. You've done a great job of explaining all this. It's really a challenging situation, but you're in contact with partners at MassDOT and the development side and the towns. I just want to add that, worst case scenario, if unfortunately Harvard or Ashburnham can't fit into 2025, rather than losing out on that $8 million, $9 million, the JTC and the MPO could always look at the statewide project lists to determine if any of those might be a priority for funding. Just if, you know, the worst case scenario does come to light in 2025 and there's no project to fill that gap. So just food for thought, I guess, for when we meet for the MPO next week, if there might be something you'd be interested in funding, or if D2 or D3 has another project up their sleeve to fill in. I'm not sure if that's the case, but just trying to have, you know, a backup plan to the backup plan, just in case things go south. But yeah, hopefully the information we get in the next week is good news, and we're able to build out the scenario like we see on the screen here. Just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. And yeah, that's something we will have to certainly consider. Say if there's a large portion of balance unspent in 2025, we would want to make sure that you know, we would get some sort of a benefit to the region project in the statewide list. One of the things we really want to try to avoid is having the projects queued up in a way that other projects on the list get pushed back. You can see what happens in scenario 2. This is a scenario when we don't have a project in 2025 aside from Leominster. The result of that is moving 4 projects back and only 1 project into the 2029. And you know, of course, Sterling and Clinton, you know, no fault of their own. Right now, they're very much on schedule. They would see their project delayed from where it is right now. Anything could happen over 5 years. Of course, we revisit this list every year, and as I mentioned, we make amendments often. So you know, nothing's ever really set in stone. But the idea of the exercise of the tip is to really like try to put our handprints on it and do what's best for the region. So we've been working with Chris and the districts at Mass DOT, and they've been very helpful. And you know, it's a busy time of year to figure out what to do with these projects. So I appreciate all the help that we've got from DOT as well. So we don't need to have any official type of comment or suggestion from the JTC today, but this is just to make you aware of what's going on. If there's any interest in your project or any updates that you think we could use, please reach out to me, and I can talk you through these scenarios and what our thoughts are as well, if you'd like. So at any point. And as I mentioned, we'll be presenting these scenarios or similar scenarios to the MPO next week, with the idea of developing those projects into the 25 to 29 tip. And if there's no other comments, I can move on to the next item in the agenda. Which is the Montachusett Federal Fiscal Year 25 Unified Planning Work Program. And this, again, is Sherry.
All right, so as you know, we've been developing our UPWP over the last couple of months, and we received a number of task requests from communities. So based on the community need and the equity analysis that was presented last month's JTC meeting, we have decided to move forward with the following tasks. So the highlighted tasks are the ones that I will be further going over, because those are the more relatively new tasks, and they're also the ones that were based off of community requests. So the first one is the multimodal connections, and this one was requested by the town of Ashby. They're looking to establish a pedestrian network that provides access to the town's historical buildings, landmarks, businesses, and elementary school, kind of like a walkability study. For the most part, but they want to kind of identify like a clear pedestrian access route to incorporate all those sites. And then the next step that they were requesting has to do with connecting that pedestrian access pathway of sorts to the existing Wapak and Mid-State Trail system, which is, they already have established somewhat of a trail in that area, and they just wanted to continue it further to actually make the connection there. The second one is a corridor analysis, and this was requested by the town of Townsend. they actually requested this last year as well, and we were not able to accommodate it. So this year they requested it again and then scaled the project down a little bit. So this one involves a 0.6 mile stretch along 119, and they're looking to do like a safety study of sorts in that stretch, just because it's a significant roadway. It's heavily traveled. It includes Northern Middlesex Regional High School, shopping plaza, fast food restaurants, and other points of interest in the area. So we'll be conducting some maybe level of service, sidewalk analysis, and see if there's any other improvements that can be made along that stretch of roadway. The third one is freight. So we actually got 3 different communities request a task related to freight. It's a pretty hot topic right now. So we are working with the towns of Ashburnham, Harvard, and Westminster on some freight heavy truck traffic concerns. We've reached out to each of the communities to figure out what their specific concerns were and have developed a list of like traffic counts to conduct, level of service where appropriate. We'll look at geometric conditions and possible roadway improvements in those areas. They each have a specific segment or segments of roadway that they're concerned with. So it's not as intensive as our current freight task, but it's just a little bit more data collection heavy. And then the fourth one is the future of mobility. This is going to kind of stem off of our current task, which is our TMA task, or our Transportation Management Area Association, sorry, that we have this year. And after getting into the weeds of that task, we've had a couple of public meetings, and we actually kind of morphed that task into more of a future of mobility task, and this would continue those efforts. So we established that a TMA might not be what's needed for the region currently. We actually wanted to get a better handle on the needs of the region and really reach out a little bit further to those organizations and continue the outreach efforts that we've been doing. We actually have one coming up at the end of this month, or early April, I should say, that is going to continue this effort, and with the goal of kind of having a transportation master plan of sorts for the region, and that'll help identify future projects or funding opportunities. We're working really closely with MART and Shannon 9 on this task. It's great to have everybody come together. We've gotten some really good positive feedback on our efforts on this so far, so we want to make sure that we can continue that further. So those are the 4 major tasks, and we actually are probably going to be reaching out to those communities to confirm that we do in fact want to incorporate their task requests into this year's UPWP. And at the next MJTC meeting in April, we hope to have a final budget and final draft document ready to go for hopefully to be released for a 21-day public comment period at the April MPO meeting. Does anyone have any questions on any of those tasks? I know there will be further information on them. We just wanted to give you a listing of the tasks that we're proposing. The ones that aren't highlighted are mostly the ones that we typically tend to do every year for the most part. So there's not a lot of change. The only change I can think of to mention would be more of the public participation, public outreach. We wanted to beef that up a little bit this year to make sure that we had our like our outreach database and email and mailing lists more updated and incorporate all the like volunteer and why can't I think of the words? Public services groups. I feel like since COVID, we haven't been keeping up with keeping that updated. So we want to make sure that we really hit that a little bit harder this year. That's pretty much all I have for our current UPWP situation.
So Sherry, I have a question. It's Janet Tice from Shirley.
Hi,
So
Janet.
we had proposed a corridor analysis for a stretch of Route 2A. So obviously that didn't make the list for this year. Is there any recourse for us? Are there other resources that we could be approaching? That's a numbered route, a state highway, so it's not something that, we and Shirley can attack ourselves.
Well, I think, yeah, I know that we were looking at that one as well. I think it's probably a very similar situation to what Townsend had last year, where they had requested their corridor study. We couldn't incorporate it into that current UPWP based on, our budget requirements and then the the equity analysis that we had conducted. So we're kind of in that similar situation this year with Shirley. And I know Townsend had come back this year and requested it again with a number of support letters from various town departments, as well as I think they had a somebody in the governmental organization actually could provide a support letter. So I think that would be, I would highly encourage the town to reapply next year for sure. But in the meantime, I drafted a letter to you already, but it does state that, if we do come up with any additional funding opportunities, or maybe something doesn't quite work out with our draft UPWP task list, then we'll definitely be reaching out to you for sure.
Mm-hmm. And certainly we would plan to reapply, but for the next year. But I was just thinking if there's any other, resource that we should be approaching, maybe even at the state level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm definitely thinking of something.
You and I
in
can
our
discuss
community
that
development
offline too.
Okay, for sure. I know there's other opportunities in our community development department sometimes, like district local technical assistance sometimes might be an option. I'm not sure what their status is currently on that, but there are some other smaller opportunities that if they come up, we can definitely reach out.
Right, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions for Sherry? Okay, and as she mentioned, much like with the tip, we're formulating a draft over the next few weeks, and we'll have that available for review at next month's meeting, with the idea of that going out to public comment in April and hopefully endorsement by the NPO in May. So we'll continue to update you on the process as we move along. The next on the agenda is contract status reports. We don't have anything for FTA or RTA. I don't know if George, do you have anything for Mark?
No, I don't have anything.
I can actually give a quick update on as it relates to the UPWP actually for the transit items. We have been working with the Transit Authority to draft some new tasks. So there's been some conversations back and forth. And George, we'll give you the draft task that we came up with shortly to make comments and changes. So that's just a heads up on your part. MassDOT, the only thing I have is we're continuing on with these two major programs, the UPWP and the TIP. These are some of the major items we work on through the year. We'll have some additional updates on some of the current projects that we're working on in the current UPWP in future meetings. As I mentioned, the NPO meeting will be next Wednesday, 1 o'clock. Originally, that meeting we were going to have in person. The Secretary of Transportation in Massachusetts was going to come and chair. However, she can't make it. So I think that what we'll do is we'll have this remote again, the NPO next week remote. I'm going to send out notices later this afternoon on that. I'll make sure I'll highlight that as well. So that's all I have for 3C. Administrative matters, the next JTP meeting we'll have April 10th. Same setup, remotely, 2:30. So at that meeting, we'll review the final draft documents of the TIP and the UPWP. So we'll encourage all members to reach out to us with any questions on those items or anything else. And we'll see you at the next meeting. And finally, we have adjournment. Is there a recommendation to adjourn?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 3:16 p.m. the JTC committee.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Second.
Great, thank you, Chris. Okay, well, see you all next month. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.